This episode is brought to you by Scout Fantasy, home of the Fantasy Football World Championships. Scout is your one-stop shop for expert advice on Dynasty, Redraft, and DFS. Join the Scout Army at scoutfantasysports.com and start your new membership today.
Welcome to the Dynasty Trade Calculator Podcast, a show dedicated to Dynasty Fantasy Football trades and player values. With your hosts, John Paul Hurley, Izzy Elkafas, and Nick Whalen.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dynasty Trade Calculator Podcast. This is the 95th episode. We're creeping up on the 100th. By the way, just a sneak peek for everybody else. We've got a special thing planned for the 100th episode. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. I'm really excited about it. I'm also very excited about this episode because joining me is a special guest that we've got on. He is the co-founder at Franchise and commissioner of FCFL. He's Salt Lake Screaming Eagles football, former NFL defensive back, Ray Austin. What is up, Ray?
Man, I'm good. How are you doing, guys?
Phenomenal, man. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, so the listeners that we got on our podcast that haven't heard of you yet, could you just kind of go through like your background and some things about FCFL for us, please?
Oh, wow. Let me. Yeah, I'll start with the background. I've always wanted to be a Tennessee Vol, so that's where I went. Actually, Tennessee didn't even recruit me. They were the only school in Division I that didn't recruit me, and that was the main reason I wanted to go. So went up there, played there for 4 years. Peyton Manning was my quarterback. He was the offensive team captain along with Jay Graham. I was the defensive team captain along with Leonard Little. Had some wonderful times. That's when Tennessee was we was right there in the middle of the SEC. Was blessed to get drafted to the New York Jets. Bill Parcells was my head coach. Bill Belichick was my defensive coordinator and defensive back coach. Eric Mangini was the assistant defensive back coach. Al Groh was there. Tony Mangini, Todd Kelly, Charlie Weiss, Romeo. It was like the temptations of coaches out there. Then got traded to Chicago, played there with Greg Schiano, was my defensive back coach, and Wannstedt, and just loved Chicago. Chicago is just a great, beautiful city. I miss it. Just moved away about a year ago to here in Arizona. Now I'm rocking and rolling, being the commissioner of the FCFL, probably one of the biggest things that I've done in my entire life, and I'm truly thrilled to be a part of it.
So FCFL, the listeners that we have regularly on our podcast know it by heart by now because we've been having you in our pre-roll. We talk about you throughout the podcast too. It's kind of a fun thing to talk about. Fan Control Football League. Can you tell us what that's about a little bit?
Yeah, man, we wanted to rethink football for the digital audience. We are developing a 8-team league in Las Vegas, utilizing blockchain technology and creating an actual league where fans have all the control, whether that's calling plays, picking players, firing, hiring coaches, developing the brand, strategizing, scouting players. You name it, we want to give our fans complete control over this league, allowing fans to do what they've always wanted to do, kind of breaking down the wall from the executive part of football and the play calling part of football, the scouting and building your team, the true fantasy. 2016, we bought an indoor football team in the IFL, and we allowed the fans to run it. We allowed the fans to pick our location. They picked Salt Lake City. We allowed the fans to pick our name. They picked the Screaming Eagles. We allowed the fans to pick our cheerleaders, our coach. I held live interviews with a handful of coaches and allowed the fans to pick the coach that they thought could be the best coach for our team. We then allowed them to use streaming platforms like YouTube and Huddle to find players all around the internet. We're playing for small schools, D2 schools, D3 schools, even D1 schools that were backups that didn't get a chance to play. And that's how we developed our roster. I also went on the road and did about half dozen combines around the country. We took all that footage, we uploaded it to our fans, and we let our fans pick players based off of those combines. We then developed a mobile app that allowed the fans from at home or in the stadium to call the plays in real time. So people wonder, why do we bring the blockchain technology into this? Is because that is it'll be the innovation of what we're doing. It allows transparency in our entire league. That means every vote that's out there, every vote, every fan knows that their vote really means something. And using the blockchain, we're creating what we call our fan token, which is our currency. That's our money. You know, I mean, you're playing your little video games and you see coins pop up every time you win and go to the next level. Bing, 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 bing. Well, it's the same thing with us. This is a live video game. So you earn power by making decisions, by earning fan tokens. And it's so easy. You can earn tokens by liking our Facebook, liking all of our content, reading our content, looking at our videos, coming to our meetings. I have meetings weekly with our virtual front office so we can talk about scouting. We can we've had Corey Chavis from Draft Nasties come in and talk NFL recruiting and what you should be looking for as a scout. We want to give our fans the ultimate experience when it comes to live and engaging and having true control over this entire league.
That's pretty cool.
That's insane. That sounds like real life Madden on steroids to me.
That's it, man. That's it all day long.
Have you considered calling the company that?
We thought, yeah, until we get the cease and desist letter.
There you go. Izzy, you had something?
So honest question off the cuff here. As the commissioner of this, do you feel like the fans actually make good decisions over time? So let me give me a relative success rate for fans. Let's say they were part of the Browns for the last 3 years. The Browns were what, 4 wins in the last 3 years, so 4-44. Is that right? Yeah, 4-44. If the fans were running the Browns, how much better or worse would they do than 4-44?
You can't get any worse than that, right?
First season. So our fans were 6-11. 6-11. That's not bad. But the real great thing was that the fans were the third top offense in the IFL. The third top offense in the IFL. And the quarterback that they selected off of the internet made Rookie of the Year. So that showed you that fans can pick plays, design a team, pick a great name, call plays, hire and draft coaches. The thing that's so beautiful, the beautiful thing about football that I think people forget about, and this is a stab. This is a stab at fantasy, real quick, is there is a strategy about football that people forget. And fantasy, I'm a big stat guy. I used to compare myself with other people's stats and let me know where I kind of rank. That was just a mental thing that I do and most players do. But there's a strategy of football that to me is getting diluted. And I think that's what we want to make sure that people get an understanding. Like, come to the meetings. We want you to meet and talk football. You're gonna watch practice with us. You're going to learn what we know. You're going to really learn what it sounds like, what cover two really means. What does a out route mean? Why did he run an out instead of a slant? Like, those are the things that we want to teach our fans. And to be honest with you, we don't really even have to teach them that because we're in meetings and we promote people to speak up. And I think that's the biggest thing. We're dealing with a different fan. You're not dealing with a fan that just doesn't know football anymore. It's a different fan. And that's the confidence that I know that we're going to get people on teams that really care about the brand, that really care about the teams and say, I want to win.
Yeah. So how does one, so somebody's listening right now, how does one become a fan or a voter for the Screaming Eagles?
Yeah, so you can sign up for you can go to our website, fantoken.network, and that'll get you started. You can just sign up, start getting the emails, and you can because what we're doing right now, we're doing what we call building the FCFL. We want our fans to be a part of everything that we do from when we start developing the teams to picking the coaches, scouting players right now. So we have a ton of content out there right now that you can start to research so you can get a part of what we're doing. But go to fantoken.network or fcfl.io, sign up, and then that just starts to get you going.
Very cool. No, that is exciting.
And also our Telegram, we got over 55,000 people on our Telegram asking questions all day, every day. All the founders are in there. The CEO is in there. I'm in there. You can go to FCFL_fan_token and come in there and chat with us. And we're making daily announcements. We have some amazing announcements coming in the next 2 days. I cannot wait for you guys to know who is our streaming platform. Who we're going to have produce our film and our games is going to be incredible. Once people hear this, they'll see how awesome, and all the partners that we're getting a part of this, they'll see how awesome this thing's going to be.
I'm excited about it, Ray. Thanks for that rundown. Let's get to the topics here. So just as a sneak peek, we're going to be talking about some of the dynasty, actually just fantasy rookies coming to the NFL in 2018. And we got some NFL news to cover too later in the podcast. So there's a pretty loaded outline. We're going to get started with the rookie wide receiver segment. So Izzy, starting with you, specifically, who are the NFL ready wide receivers, and like who are some that you might see starters day one?
Yeah, so in my opinion, I think this is one of the weaker wide receiver classes that we had in a while, especially from when we're talking about wide receiver ready. The one to me that is the most wide receiver, I guess starter day one ready is Calvin Ridley to me. And that's not saying that Calvin Ridley is going to be the best wide receiver in this class, but I think he's got the best chance to be the best wide receiver the earliest. When we talk about polish as a route runner, I don't think there's anybody as good as Calvin Ridley as a route runner. And he's coming into this ready to go day one. I think the big concerns with him is how he's going to stand up physically in the NFL. He's slight in the frame. I want to say he's 5'11", 190-ish. 5'10", 190-ish. He's a small frame guy. The one thing I will say is there's a lot of draft nicks out there, the draft freaks out there that are analyzing this player, and they're just trying to find all the negatives with him. And I will say the pros and cons that Calvin Ridley has are the exact same pros and cons that Antonio Brown had coming out. In fact, Antonio Brown probably had a little bit more cons because he's got that diva aspect to him. But if you look at these two players, I'm going to run down this list of their physical profiles in terms of their performances at the combine, and pro days. So Antonio Brown's 40 time was 4.56. Calvin Ridley's is 4.43. You look at their bench, because the big knock on Ridley is strength, and that is he is 185 pounds, so that's reasonable to have that concern. Bench for Antonio Brown is 13. Calvin Ridley is 15. You look at the vert, Antonio Brown 33.5, Calvin Ridley 31. The three cone, Antonio Brown 6.98, Calvin Ridley 6.88. When you talk about agility and quickness, Calvin Ridley has the edge there a little bit. You talk about the broad jump, 105 for Brown, 110 for Ridley, just more explosive traits. Ridley the advantage there. Coming into the NFL, they're talking about Calvin Ridley being older. Well, Antonio Brown, even though he wasn't 23, he was still 22, was a senior coming out. And Antonio Brown did nothing year one, and technically he didn't really do much year two, but in year one, he was behind Hines Ward, Mike Wallace, and Emmanuel Sanders. And he was a 6th round draft pick. So he had to earn his stripes a little bit. Whereas Calvin Ridley's going to have that draft pedigree day one. He's going to get a chance to compete day one, likely in an empty receiving core in the NFL. So I think he's going to be the most NFL ready, and I don't think there's anybody necessarily close in that aspect.
So Izzy's going with the talented Mr. Ridley. Ray, who do you got? Who do you think is the most NFL ready wide receiver coming out of the 2018 draft class?
It's interesting you say Ridley, because I've seen him a lot destroy Tennessee every year, and I really like the guy. I like the way. I think you were right on point. I think he runs really great routes. He's really precise with his routes. He understands separation. I do feel that he may struggle with press and bump coverage, and it was something that I would always scream at the TV as a fan when Alabama's playing Tennessee is, somebody's got to bump. He's got to be pressed, because you give him space, he's going to separate, and that's going to be a problem. So I think that's going to be something he's going to have to work on, depending on what team he goes with and who his coach is. But you're right. He's a playmaker. He understands. I can definitely see he understands coverages. He works really well in space, and he'll be a guy that has a good run after a catch. The guy, there's a gentleman. There's a kid from Oklahoma State, Washington, and the only reason I got a chance to check him out is Jalen McCleskey is an old teammate of mine. His father is an old teammate of mine. JJ McCleskey actually played in the NFL, and I've been watching Jalen, especially playing in Oklahoma, and how he's been doing. But to see Washington, this kid, man, the one thing that I will always bring up is, how does a wide receiver, a true wide out, a down the field wide out, how does he approach the ball? How does he adjust to the ball? And not too many wide receivers can adjust like the Odell Beckhams and I was in the gym today, and I was watching the Seattle Seahawks and the Falcons, like a old, last year's game. And Julio Jones ran this corner route, and he had a DB in front of him and one and a safety over top of him. And Matt Ryan put a great ball there, but that wasn't the thing that was so impressive. The thing was so impressive is Julio, the way he goes up for the ball and the way he adjusts his body, not just for the catch and with two defensive backs on him, but where his feet landed. And that was the thing that I saw Washington do a few times. Like, he was already preparing for the NFL. And you watch guys like, hey, are you getting a catch and pulling one foot out? That's elementary. You're looking for the guys that are working on stuff like that. And I saw Washington do that. So to me, to give him just a little bump, I think the guy is going to be he's going to be a player.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Izzy, what are your thoughts on Washington?
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with Washington because he's a long strider. He's got long legs and a shorter torso. So those types of guys build up speed. We talk about, he was mentioning this about Calvin Ridley in press coverage, which is absolutely true. And that was the same knock on Marvin Harrison, Antonio Brown, a lot of slight receivers.
Yep.
The really good ones make it work. But for James Washington, he's gonna have a similar problem because he doesn't have a quick release. And that's going to be an issue for him in the short and intermediate game, which to me is a problem. As a deep threat, I think he's going to be phenomenal, but he's going to be a flanker. And
definitely,
I think he's going to fit nicely in an offense as a wide receiver too, as a guy that's going to stretch the field. But I don't know if he has the same upside. Like from an NFL perspective, I think he's going to have a better impact as an NFL player than he is going to be a fantasy or dynasty asset. But I think he can make plays year one.
That's a great point. You're probably right. I don't see I don't see him a 1,000-yard guy, up front, but for a while, maybe even just for him, adjusting to the speed of the defensive backs. And you're right. If I was a guy playing somebody with you like him, you would play him off because he's going to be a threat down the field. But the way he adjusts to the ball down the field is going to be monstrous to me. I think that's going to be where he really kind of jumps out on the eyes of people and really kind of, elevates his game. And I just think that's going to be his key to his success.
Yeah. And I think with him, a good comparison coming out was Terrence Williams out of Baylor. A guy that, once again, he's also a long strider and he made plays down the field as a rookie.
Yeah.
I think he had 700-800 yards as a rookie and 5 or 6 touchdowns. I can see James Washington having that sort of impact year one. So yeah, I don't mind James Washington. I just don't know if his upside is the same as some of these other guys.
Yeah, I think he plays big. I think he plays bigger than he is. I mean, I know he's only maybe 6'1" or something like that, but
yeah,
he just plays. He plays aggressive, going up for that ball, and I think that means a lot. That changes the momentum of an offense when you got a Larry Fitzgerald type of grabbing a ball like, this is mine, not yours. I mean, like I said, I think that's going to be a big key for him.
Absolutely. And the one guy I comped him to is probably a guy that you played against at some point in time. I think that his upside is a Darrell Jackson type.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't mind James. I just, we'll see long term. I think he's a year 1 or year 2, year 3 guy where we're really going to see him excel, but I do like James.
But it's just so interesting to hear what he said was great because he, as a different fan, yeah, I played in the NFL, but as a different fan, you saw, a guy, and you said some things some things I absolutely agreed upon, and that's because you've seen it. You've seen enough talent that you can, say, I can scout a guy, I can recruit a guy, I can see a guy that has, this, or see beyond the 6'1" or the 6'6", 4'3" guy. I can see a guy that's for the player that he is, and that's going back to, we're dealing with a different fan that, in these years.
Yeah, and the thing that the NFL players with the experience in these higher levels is that they understand the mindset and the rigors of what these guys are going through that the fans don't. So I think the biggest thing, and even some NFL players, you played in the league, and what round draft pick were you, Ray?
5th.
A 5th round draft pick. So let's say a first round draft pick. We've seen guys, how many of the first round draft picks actually bust? And maybe 15, 20% per draft. I mean, half the draft probably busts.
Yeah.
And we look at that as an NFL player, you probably know, why do players bust? We know why some third round, fourth round, later round draft picks, day 3 and on, they kind of have an uphill battle because of draft pedigree and they just don't have the same staying power.
I disagree. I disagree with what you're saying, but I'm going to answer that question because I was the type of players that Bill Belichick drafts. He doesn't make his team up first rounders. He makes his team up off of, and this will answer that question, cerebral players.
Yep.
He wants players that can think. And people think about, why this guy didn't make it and why that guy didn't make it. I'll tell you right now, he ain't spent time in the film room. If you want to look at the longevity of any player, just look at how long they spend in the film room. People don't understand that we go to practice at 7 a.m. We don't probably hit the field maybe 1:30, 1:45, and you only practice for 2 hours. And you got to break that up in so many different sections. So you really don't get a lot of run around, tackle, and see stuff. You see most of everything you see it in the film room. And after you're done with practice, you go back in and watch film. My rookie year, it was me and James Furrier. James was first and I was fifth. We had to watch film with Bill Belichick every Tuesday after practice. And then probably when I got home, I had to probably put some VCR tapes in. I don't know if your fans know what that is, but I had to put some VCR tapes in and watch film even more. And that's what football is. And it goes back to what I'm saying, that the strategy of football. You think about the Ed Reeds and the Blaine Bishops and the Rod Wilsons and the Deion Sanderses I just keep going. The Peyton Mannings, the students of the game. Those are the ones that last longer because they understand. They're a step faster because they've seen these plays before. They understand those schemes. They know where to fit, and they're not sitting there thinking and playing. That's the difference. You're saying if a rookie's going to come into the league, I'm looking for the rookies that are thinking like pros, and that's the reason I brought up Washington, because I remember watching him drag his 2 feet in. That's thinking like a pro. That's not thinking like a college player.
So you think as first round draft picks, the thing that makes or breaks these draft picks is the work ethic. You think that's the number one?
You know what? You want to say work ethic, but again, you make it to that level, your work ethic had to be something. It had.
True.
You can't just. I haven't seen that many guys. I've seen maybe one guy my entire life wake up and run a 4.3 and not really practice. But there's not many guys that don't have some type of work ethic. My thing is the maturity to understand that this is a business and you still have to be in the classroom. And the men who treat it like that as a business and not playing football anymore are the ones that are going to be the successful ones.
Right. So I will. In your opinion, so when I look at these guys, there's guys like Trent Richardson, who everybody thought would be the GOAT, right? As one of the GOATs in terms of how good they would be as an NFL running back. And he busted. And you look at a guy like A.J. Jenkins, who everybody thought out of Illinois, who everybody thought was overdrafted. There's not many people that really liked A.J. Jenkins coming out. And then he busted, but that was kind of expected. So when you look at those two from a fan that's watching, like myself and other guys that just kind of are analysts that have not played at a super high level, what would your advice be to saying, well, here's why somebody would bust what's the number one reason essentially people bust?
I'm going to be very blunt and very direct. First of all, number one is confidence. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what pick you are. And I have seen it in the eyes of a first rounder. And I will say this, I've seen it in the eyes of a first rounder and a sixth rounder. It's confidence. I've seen a confident 6th round safety play for 13 years, and I saw a non-confident first round running back last only 4. So it number one starts at confidence, and I think after that I keep going back to this. This is a cerebral game. This is the fastest chess match that you can possibly play. And if you're not a student of the game, I would tell every rookie that if you're not a student of the game, you're not playing. And the other thing I would always do is you're not even talking about the draft picks and the guys who make the teams. What about the free agents, the guys that are still struggling to try to make teams? I would always say, I always hear these guys that they're free agents. They're free agents. I'm a free agent. I'm like, I could pinch your bicep and tell you're not a free agent, because a free agent is tight. He is ready to go when the damn phone rings. A free agent is not soft. So it does go back a little bit to work ethic, but it all starts with professionalism.
Yeah, very cool. Love it.
That's amazing. I think Ray was about to say that just looking at the Google Hangouts image of Izzy, that he can tell you're not a free agent, Izzy. He doesn't have to pinch your bicep.
No, I am. No.
You look really soft, man. Just a soft looking guy.
I'm soft.
Yeah.
I didn't say that easy.
Well, you guys, that's a good spot to switch it over. So we talked about the most NFL ready wide receivers, and we've got Ridley, we got Washington. I want to talk next about, and the first question is going to go to Ray here. So Ray, it's your turn. Who are the project wide receivers? So conversely, not the NFL ready ones, but the guys that need a little bit of work, a little bit of extra time before they can become NFL ready. What's your project wide receiver?
You know what? I'm going to say this because I hope he does not become a wide receiver. And I've been so sick of hearing it. Lamar Jackson will be the project wide receiver. They need to leave this boy alone. Let this man do him. I mean, when Mr. Michael Vick himself says he is the next me, come on, man. Let this boy play. Like I would not come watch him play wide receiver.
You just became Izzy's best friend, Ray. Izzy's been pumping Lamar Jackson like for.
Come on, man. I seen this dude in at a game, man. And when you talking about electrifying, I mean, you always say you want the best player with the ball in his hands, and how can you not put the ball in this man's hand? The thing that I do like that, and people are just trying to figure him out. He's quiet. He's not a boaster. He leads by his play, man. And I just pray that he gets in a position or the team that just, he understands that he is a pocket passer, but, and running is secondary, because I want him to last. It's a difficult when you're a Ferrari playing a grown man's game. I want the guy to last, and hopefully he gets with a really great quarterback coach. And that's a good point right there. To me, if I had a chance, and if I knew people that knew Lamar, I'd be like, I'll be whispering in Lamar's ear right now, Lamar, you need to go find John Gruden's email or his phone number and call him and just talk to him. Just ask him questions, and just call up coaches and call up Cutcliffe. Cutcliffe would take his name.
Ray, say it from your heart, man. Lamar listens to our podcast, so just say what's on your mind.
Hey, LJ, bro, you gonna be the man. I'm telling you. Pick up the phone, Google John Gruden, call him up, just talk to him, man. Just call him, text him every now and then, bro. He gonna put them little nuggets in your ear, man. This kid can be the next big thing, and I'm super excited for him, and I hope the best for him, man.
I'll leave it to you, Izzy.
Awesome. So I'm not gonna, for the sake of time, what I really have been dying to ask Ray is two things.
Yeah.
One, who's the best, receiver / tight end you've ever played against, in your opinion? One that made it and one that didn't. And then in today's NFL, who do you think is the best wide receiver or tight end?
Oh man, the best wide receiver I would have to say Randy Moss. And the reason I'm going to say Randy Moss is because when I was with the Bears, I never ever saw somebody get triple covered. And I thought we were joking when we did it. I'm sorry, I was with the Bears. And I was the dime back that had the triple cover.
Oh man.
So it was a cover 2, but I was in a third, maybe. So it had a safety over top. I was in cover 3, and we had a corner on top, and I took away all his inside routes. Didn't matter because he still scored like 3 points. It was ridiculous, and it just showed me like, wow, man, like,
was your locker empty on Tuesday or?
No. Okay. It wasn't empty because it wasn't my fault. He went deep. I had all the inside routes. but if I said now, man, I think I'm just such a fan of. It had to be 2 because I know one of them personally, but it have to be Julio and Larry, man. It's just Fitz is just He's been here with the Cards for so long, man. I just think about, if he was somewhere else, man, in a bigger market, he would be, everybody in the world would know who he is. But he's done such a great job with his career here. I just think, when I look at Julio Jones, man, he is just sick. He's just sickness. He is this. I know everybody likes the, Antonio and Odell, man. Imagine being a DB one-on-one press coverage against Julio, and you tell me what you think.
Yeah. No, and that's he's been a beast for a while, and Larry obviously is just getting older, and he's a Holy Angels guy. So we're all from Minnesota. John and I are from Minnesota. So
nice.
Yeah, we've known the Fitz, and obviously we probably saw you in a game or two against Moss, so we know how you feel.
Yeah.
But I will. So just to give you some insight, so DeAndre Hopkins and Odell Beckham Jr. in dynasty leagues are the 1 and 2 for the receivers, just because of the youth. Antonio Brown is just getting a little bit older. He's like 29, turning 30 here. So, and same thing with Julio. He's turning 30. So there's a little bit more emphasis on the youth. So between Nuke and Hopkins, between DeAndre Hopkins and Odell Beckham Jr., who do you, if you are running a team, which receiver do you take? Assuming the antics out of OBJ out.
So let's say you're FCFLing the NFL right now, and you got to choose one.
You don't even have to take his antics out. I would still take an Odell Beckham. I think people forget, and again, I came from the Keyshawn Johnson eras when he was writing books about what Odell is doing. So I think people forget that is a personality. If you think about certain personalities on football fields, there's different personalities. D linemen, O linemen, you don't mess with them. Middle linebackers they probably gonna hit you accidentally and don't care, and you ain't gonna say nothing about it. Defensive backs are always to where the defensive backs, they over there because you can always hear them talking. Wide receivers are the same way. That comes with it. Yeah, you have the quiet guys, the leader type guy, but I enjoy an Odell Beckham because I know he's going to back up what he does. I think players in the locker room, when he comes in and shows all that passion and throws his helmet, I think they dig that. Because I know I would at a point where people can say, oh, it gets distracting. It only gets distracting because that's the media. I think in the locker room, he's a locker room guy. I think he cares about that team because when he catches that ball, he's not, the touchdown might be for Odell so he can dance, but the running, he's doing that for the team. So that's how I feel.
Very cool. Well, I've given you 3 or 4 opportunities to say DeAndre Hopkins because he's my favorite receiver in the NFL, and you haven't. So
I heard you twice.
we'll just assume that you don't like DeAndre Hopkins, and I'll tell him not to listen to this episode.
Wait, I got it really quick before we go on to the next bullet here. So, Ray, if you had to choose between DeAndre Hopkins and DeAndre Hopkins.
I'll pass.
He's passing. Oh,
No.
Dang. There you go, Izzy. So
awesome.
Let's get back on track. So we were talking about some of the project wide receivers. Ray chooses Lamar Jackson. I agree with that. He's not a guy that we want to see in a wide receiver, like a split out. He's a guy we want to see under center. Izzy, over to you. Who is your project wide receiver in this draft class?
Dude, to me, they're all projects. The one guy that I think is the project that has the most upside is St. Brown.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that if he gets into a system that is conducive to his type of talent, and he's got a good receiver coach that's going to help him refine his game, I think he's going to be a really good wide receiver. So for me, it's ESB. I think Sutton is closer to being NFL ready than ESB is, but I think St. Brown just has more upside.
Yeah, I think he's got the biggest ceiling. He's probably the most athletic out of all the receivers to me. Yeah, I think he's the Ross, and if he gets with the right coach, he's going to be insane. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
He's a big dude, and he's going to eat up some red zone targets someday too. So I can't wait to see what happens there.
Yeah. And again, it goes back. He's another dude. He's another guy that I remember watching adjusting. He can adjust to the ball. A big body like that, being able to adjust, making himself longer for those deeper corner catches. That's huge, man.
I think you guys are missing the main point too, and I got to put it out because I pay attention to this really closely. But he's got a sweet name, and guys that have sweet names can't miss. That's my point.
Hurley, I'm going to say it one more time just so we can let Ray take off. This is going to be the last question I'm going to ask Ray. So Peyton Manning, I think, is the GOAT. He's always been my favorite quarterback. Forget Tom Brady. I'm taking Peyton Manning. You played with Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
We've seen Peyton Manning take Marvin Harrison to greatness, Reggie Wayne to greatness, Brandon Stokely, he made him relevant. You look at what he did in Denver. Everywhere he's been, every receiver that he's had, he's essentially made significantly better. How, knowing Peyton Manning, how important is that quarterback, and how much can a quarterback change a receiver's career?
Man, I think that was an understatement. I think you missed out on probably the other part of the team that he made great. I think that was the one thing it was inspiring to see a young kid, especially because I was a year older than him, and to see him to come in with so much, publicity and all that stuff, and he handled it really, really well. And it was so, Archie, raised those kids right, man. They were primed and ready for the spotlight, and which was so cool because, I was this film guy. I would wake up in the morning, and I'd be and I'd be walking into the film room, and I'd look over to the offensive side, and Peyton was already there. And, he always had his playbook with him. It was one of those things that it was subliminal, he'd be the last out the gym. He might not be in there doing no curls or nothing, but he was the last out the gym. But he was also the last out there because he was talking to the trainers and he was being that guy. And I think that's the thing that people forget about when they talk about football, and even when you talked about Odell Beckham, are they good teammates, man? And Peyton was a good teammate, and I know a lot of guys could vouch for that. I think that's the thing that he elevated everybody else's game. After running, we used to have this drill called the Tennessee drills, 10-1-10s, 45-second rest, and they go back and forth. And after that, he would literally grab a ball and grab guys and say, anybody want to do one-on-ones? Be like, are you going to turn that down? Like, you going up against, I'm in practice going up against All-Americans that he made All-Americans, but they did their work too. But he was throwing the ball for him. And then you going up against them and going up against him, you're going to be ready for Saturday and hopefully Sunday, and that's what I appreciate. He made me better of a player. So I can't just say he was just wide receivers, because he made me better. He was one of the people that helped me get to the NFL.
That's cool. That's awesome. I realize too, now that talking to you, my two favorite my favorite quarterback, Peyton Manning. My favorite running back is also from your alma mater, Arian Foster. Hey. My favorite all-time football player. So I'm a Tennessee Volunteer, I guess, at heart. So I'm with you guys.
I see. That's awesome, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and send you them orange overalls, baby.
I love it. I wear the hell out of them.
Orange look good on you, Izzy. What can I say?
Yeah, it's my favorite color too, so it all works out. I love it. I'm waiting for it.
I got you, Doc.
Well, that's all we got for this segment. I want to say a special thank you to Ray. Ray Austin, I appreciate you joining us, man. This was phenomenal. Yeah, I hope that we can try to find a way to do this again. I know that our agreement with FCFL kind of comes to an end, but we want to talk to you again, man. This is phenomenal. So,
man, 100%. I enjoyed you guys, and shoot, I'll come on anytime you guys need me, man. I enjoyed talking football with good people.
Awesome.
Shoot our listeners that website one more time before you go.
Yes, it is fcfl.io, and you can also go to fantoken.network. That's where everything is at. Go to fantoken.network, and if you want to get on our Telegram, it's FCFL_fan_token. And if you go on any social media, look up Ray Austin 36. I'll follow you back if you hit me up.
Jackpot. Thanks, Ray. Talk to you again.
All right, we'll catch you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys, man.
It was a pleasure, Ray.
That was awesome. Thanks again to Ray for joining us. Now we're going to go through the next segment of the podcast, the final segment of the podcast. And joining us is Nick Whalen to weigh in on the final segment. This is very important stuff we got to cover. What is up, Nick?
Hey, guys.
What's up, man? I heard you you spent your entire day in meetings, like exciting ones.
Yeah. Those meetings, there's so much stuff going on. But, I was told the streak of me being on the podcast was going to be over. But, like Cal Ripken, hey, man, I'm the Iron Man. I'll find a way to come through.
Yep, there you go.
Totally redeemed yourself.
I don't
know if it's a good streak. I don't know if it's a good streak, but the streak's still going. That's all I'm saying.
You're hitting out of the park, man. Cal Ripken Jr. line right there for you.
Hey, real life though. When I was in Little League, I tried to emulate my swing like him. Remember, he would kind of shake his bat, but or rub on his shoulder, and then he would kind of get into position. That was my strategy.
I still shake my bat at least like 3 or 4 times a day.
I mean,
Really?
it's kind of insulting that you guys did that
Yeah.
because he shook his bat because of his Tourette's.
That would be tough.
Yeah. So
Hey, did you guys find it interesting that he's nicknamed the Iron Man and Nick does Ironmans?
no, Nick does Spartan races.
I don't
Brock-
do Iron Man.
Dude. Hey,
Come
dude,
on, man.
I'm
Do you?
just trying
Hey,
to throw you
Izzy,
a bone here,
Izzy,
man.
meet
For God's sake.
Izzy, meet Nick Whalen. Nick Whalen, Izzy Elkafas. I know this is the first time you guys have ever met, so whatever, man.
Wow. I mean, this shows how much he actually knows about my life. We sit down, we have pizza
his
together.
nickname was
He doesn't
Spartan
curve. He
Man.
doesn't
Spartan
curve.
Man sounds horrible.
Spartan Man, Nick Whalen, the Spartan Man. I agree with that. Anyway,
Okay.
Nick Whalen,
Oh,
while
my
you were
goodness.
in your 9-hour meeting, something big happened.
What happened?
Brandon Cooks was traded to the Rams for like a whole bunch more than what the Patriots paid for him. So that sucks for everybody else that's not the Patriots.
Are the Rams playing like Madden right now? Is that what's going on? They're just trading for receivers and corners and
Yeah, they're playing fan-controlled football leagues, man. I think the fans probably voted that one out of New England or something because
wow.
Bill Belichick wins again. Congratulations,
Well,
Bill.
Doesn't it feel like an arms race? Like the Rams and the Eagles are both just trading for all these players and nobody else has figured it out. They're all just like, we're going to draft a guy. It's like in fantasy leagues when you have all those guys that think they're going to be smarter than everybody, and they're always going to draft the Kareem Hunts and the Kamaras, and they never trade for those veterans. And these other teams are just getting veterans.
I agree, man.
Dude, what a shift! What a shift of power! I mean, in the AFC NFC thing, you look at the NFL now, and there's the top 4 teams in terms of Super Bowl odds. Got to be Rams, Vikings, Philly, and the Patriots, right? It's got to be the top 4.
Yep. And other teams in there, I think, is Pittsburgh and then Green Bay, but they're the next tier down, I'd say.
Yeah. So I mean, it used to be AFC is going to win, and now I think there's a nice little shift here, so that's good. So what do you think of Brandon Cooks to the Rams?
Yeah, can we start with Waylon? Can we start with the Patriots? So like, talk to me about what this means for the Patriots offense, kind of creating a hole for Brandon. I mean, Brandon Cooks was at Amendola also, so I know that he wasn't a big piece, but talk about the Patriots offense.
Well, and don't forget about Deion Lewis, too. So, I mean, they lost Lewis, they lose Amendola, and they lose Cooks. I mean, honestly, whether you really like those players or not, that's a lot of production that's gone.
Yeah.
And who's going to fill that void? I mean, is it Jeremy Hill? I mean, I certainly don't think so. You look at his contract, it's not a big signing bonus. So I think that the Patriots have to be acquiring somebody, whether it's Jordan Matthews, who they've had for a visit. I think that would be a great call.
Odell Beckham Jr.
That's not happening. You know that's not unless it's a cheap trade, which I don't think it should be. I think that the Patriots should be in line to draft somebody, right? Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, they could draft somebody in the late first, and that's a cheap 5-year deal. They have 2 first-round picks down there. Maybe, some guy named like Cortland Sutton would work there, or, who knows? But I think that they would be drafting at least one guy there. Because if they don't, who do they have at receiver? I mean, you still got Mitchell, right?
Hogan.
You got Hogan. Who else do you got?
Yeah, Mitchell.
Kenny
you got
Britt.
Hogan.
Patterson.
You got Edelman.
Kenny Britt, guys.
You got Philip. Is Philip Dorsett? Philip Dorsett's still there.
I think he's gone.
Yeah, he's still there.
He's gone.
So
Is he
I'll
gone?
look it up. Keep talking, Nick.
So basically, Edelman and Hogan. I mean, do we have any hope at Patterson there?
No, not as a receiver. I mean, 230 targets are open.
Yeah. So the other part here is, would you go out and acquire any of those guys right now? Because the one that I would try to get that would be cheap would be Mitchell, right? He's practically free.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mitchell, even if you got a contender, Edelman at this point becomes a good buy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, more like
what
goodbye.
about at tight end? I mean, we know there's the rumors that Gronk could get traded too, which by the way, none of this makes sense. If you trade Gronk and Cooks in the age of Brady, I mean, what are you doing? You just think Brady can carry with nobody around him?
They're trying to pile up assets to get Garoppolo back.
Did you guys hear the rumor? I don't know where I heard this from, but the rumor is that they're going to try to trade up and take a quarterback.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson was rumored to be part of that theory.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So I don't know.
I don't think it makes sense personally. And by the way, just quickly circling back, Philip Dorsett is not getting his 5th-year option, so he gone.
Okay, he's not. Okay, he gone.
I mean, 2 tight end sets then, right? I mean, you think with Dwayne Allen and Gronk, right?
I think Dwayne's gone too, right?
Have to be.
Oh, was he? Am I wrong there?
I'll look it up. Keep talking.
Do we know anybody on the Patriots team right now? That's this other part that we're struggling. But I mean, you'd think, they're still going to dump it off to, James White gets a value boost, right? Burkhead gets a value boost. Edelman, that's a good one, Izzy, actually. Everyone forgot about him.
Oh, okay. Really quick, Nick, just to circle back, just to cover it, to close the gap. Dwayne Allen was projected as a possible cut, but he ended up staying on the roster for now.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. So, you think maybe 2 tight end sets, but, they have to acquire some talent. You can't do that to Brady.
Yeah, and Kenny Britt to you doesn't move the needle for me.
No, not at all. He done. He gone.
So yeah.
And then when we switch this and look at the angle from the Rams, so I think we're kind of in agreement there. Like if you can get any of those guys cheap right now, I would. But you got to think they're getting somebody. Like I think I would trade for J-Matt right now because the 2 teams rumored to be interested in J-Matt are Green Bay and the Patriots.
And Arizona though.
And the Tennessee Titans also.
Dude, they're doing all Tennessee's gonna do is throw the ball. I'm just kidding, Izzy. All right, so what I would do though is I would trade for J-Matt right now. Then when he signs with one of the teams, then I would ship him when his value goes up because we know he's not gonna live up to the hype. So when we look at this from the Rams angle, I am completely staying away from Brandon Cooks. Am I wrong? I'm selling him immediately.
I unfortunately, I kind of agree with it. I think it's probably better for Brandon Cook's long-term value, considering he's got a younger quarterback and it's going to be less question marks 2 years from now. But he definitely loses all of that massive upside that a Tom Brady ran offense can give you. So I'm concerned about the short term, but it's probably a little bit better for long term, depending on what Goff does.
I'm with Nick. I hate it. He's not going into it. Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp are not going to be the deep threats. They brought Brandon Cooks in to do what Sammy Watkins did for them last year, and that's stretch the field, open it up for those 2 guys underneath.
And score 8 touchdowns? Okay.
For me, sure, yeah, fine, whatever it is. But it's not enough to justify paying the premium that Brandon Cooks, with at least with Brady, you've had a track record of him just being able to carry a bunch of players, right? You look at what happened with Sammy Watkins last year. Goff was not able to carry all 3 of those players just because Gurley was so damn good and they just had a balanced attack and so on and so forth. With Brandon Cooks there, he's going to be utilized the same way Sammy Watkins was, most likely. And to me, I'm selling that. Sammy Watkins type season, no thanks.
Well, so Waylon, I'm going to flip it back to you. So here's a different spin on things. I think we all agree that we're not happy with the landing spot, technically. And it's kind of funny that we're talking about a landing spot. I don't think that I even consider that as an option that he'd be leaving the Patriots. But the different spin is that I don't know that you could really easily sell him right now for what you'll want to get for him, considering like a lot of people probably feel the same way that we do. Like 3 out of 3 people on this podcast are not happy with that. A lot of people in the league. I was just in a DM on Twitter for the DTC Championship League, and Jason Thomas is projecting like 650 yards and like 6 touchdowns from Cooks this year.
Well, I don't know. And I think this kind of brings it to the point that Nick had mentioned. When a player gets moved multiple times in a short period of time, that is a concern. We saw it with Sammy Watkins, and now we see it with Brandon Cooks. And Brandon Cooks, that's 3 teams in 10 months.
Yeah.
So did he get traded before the draft last year? I can't remember. But yeah, within a year, let's say.
Yeah.
That's an issue.
The only player, Izzy, that I've seen moved multiple times within a few years and it's been successful every time. I can only think of one guy, and his name is Brandon Marshall, and he's a Hall of Famer. And he was moved purely based on behavior, but the talent was always there. There's actually a question with Cooks and whether he can handle physical coverage, right, and how he can be used. But, if Brandon Cooks got traded to, let's say, Pittsburgh, people would be super hyped because Big Ben would go deep to him. People would be excited about it. With Goff and how Watkins was used, I don't know if there's any great outcome there of, hey, he's going to get 1,200 yards. I don't know that anybody could really expect that. Yeah. And if they are, they're a homer. So the issue is when Watkins left, I automatically was like, oh, hey, Kupp could be a value. Woods can be a value finally now. Now they're all going to eat into each other. I think the biggest benefit to the Brandon Cooks trade is Todd Gurley. Now they can't stack the line anymore. They already get Sue, right? So they're going to be in favorable run situations. And now you have Cooks taking the top off the defense, and they can't stack the box as much. So basically, the 2 moves in the last couple of weeks all help Todd Gurley.
Yeah, that takes the pressure off the line too.
Yeah, and it helps Goff. It helps Goff. To the same point, it opens everything up.
Agreed.
Underneath. And Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are going to be in favorable situations as well, and that's going to be higher efficiency both for the receivers and the quarterback. That entire team is going to be scary.
Right. And I wanted to get in this, Gerald Everett, right? Like, oh, maybe he'll take the next step. But now Cook's there. I don't want any of that. I'm going to wait a year, wait till all that settles more, and then I would dive in and get values if I see them.
Waylon, and that's a perfect segue because I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the guys that were already on the team before this Brandon Cooks thing went down. So I know some people were considering like Josh Reynolds a buy, Woods. Do you guys pretty much across the board drop down the value of all the receivers in the Rams offense now?
Yes. Yeah.
I want to know how many times Izzy said he gone in the history of DTC pods.
We actually got a counter for that, and it's 672,561.
Wow.
He's a one-trick pony.
Here's the thing. We went from there was 100 open targets. They gone. Like those targets are now Brandon Cooks.
Well, you know what else doesn't make sense? Think of this from the Rams' perspective. Okay, you let Watkins walk because you don't want to pay him. And then you re-sign Tavon Austin, and then you just get a better version of him and Brandon Cooks.
That's
right?
Confusing.
Well, Cooks is actually a receiver. Austin's just a gadget guy. But I mean, so now what? So you trade that for Cooks, and I saw that they're already looking to re-sign Cooks long term. Why don't you just sign Watkins? That's a bad sign for Sammy Watkins. Am I wrong that they didn't want to spend the money, but they wanted to spend a draft pick and money? So
absolutely, 100%.
There's lots of guys right now. All this is happening. I'm just avoiding in general.
Dang. Yeah, that's pretty sad. Pretty sad. So again, just recapping the Cooks talk, starting with Izzy. Izzy, I think you're pretty much dropping Cooks' value. What do you think that he should be trading for now with this news?
Honestly,
and I'll just give you really quick. So in the Dynasty Trade Calculator, he's in he's like a 32, which is above the 102. Yeah, above the 102, below the 101.
No.
Oh, actually, there was an update that was pushed through. He's currently sitting at a 27.4.
Okay, so was that 103?
Yeah, that's like 102, 103 in between. I think 103 is like a 24.
God, I just hate this. I hate it.
Just quit.
I hate low volume.
Quit your job.
I hate low volume. I'm selling at that. I just don't know how that offense can support 3 receivers and a running back of Gurley's profile. What's
the line for you then?
Yeah, I guess right at 104, I would take Brandon Cooks. I mean, it is so far. I'm trying to project what Brandon Cooks is going to become. And I just don't know, as long as Robert Woods is in the picture, because I know Cooper Kupp is still on a rookie deal, I don't know how long Robert Woods is going to be in the picture for. But yeah, I would say fine. I would say right at 103 I'm comfortable with.
Okay. Waylon, what about you?
Oh.
It's tough, man. It is.
And the problem is you have, a lot of running backs in this class that aren't good pass catchers, which drops their fantasy value. And we have very big question marks in these wide receivers for some people and whether they're going to hit or not, which I think helps Cooks. But overall, I think that Izzy's right. I think I'm with him. I think I would buy him at, it's between a 103 and a 104. It would really depend on the team, I think. The other thing that I want to take note of, and this is quite funny. Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp are both 24 years old. So think about this real quick, okay? Brandon Cooks is pretty young still. He turns 25 in September. And think about this, everybody. 2014 was the year of the receiver. We had all these receivers that broke out right away. We were all excited about them. Let's think about how many of them are on their original team. Mike Evans re-signed. Odell Beckham could get traded. Watkins has been on 3 teams. Cooks has been on 3 teams. J-Matt's going to be on a new team. Moncrief's already on a new team. Who else do we have?
Marquise Lee.
Lee's on the same team.
Did you say A-Rob?
A-Rob switched teams.
Calvin Benjamin.
Yep, switched teams. I mean, look at how many of those guys have switched teams. Wow. for the amazing class that it was.
Was Devontae? Yeah, Devontae Adams.
I think he was there. Yeah, so he re-signed.
Yeah.
Yep. So I mean, but I think that's just amazing that in a great wide receiver class, how many of them have changed teams?
Yeah, wow.
And some of them multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is important.
Izzy, I think it's just to answer Nick's question. I think it's just the nature of the league now because we are 4 years removed from the 2014 draft class. Contracts have ended. I realize that Sammy Watkins and Brandon Cooks are a little bit more. They're a different case because there's trades involved, and I'd be more concerned with that. But a lot of them are changing teams because contracts are ending and they're released and moved before contracts end. So
it's just some of the why they're moving teams is I don't get the Sammy Watkins departure with the Brandon Cooks arrival. I look at that and I'm like, dude, the Rams didn't have a receiver that had 100 targets last year. It's not going to happen again. You cannot be a successful fantasy player, a consistent fantasy player with less than 100 targets.
Yeah.
And none of their players had it. Sammy Watkins had 75 receptions last year? You give that to Cooks? Yeah, okay, thanks. Wide flex player. Sweet. Even if he gets up into the 100 target range, it's still not going to be anything more than a wide receiver 3 out of Brandon Cooks. So,
yeah,
you're just basically, I don't know. It's not something I'm in love with.
You're right. It's kind of sad. I mean, and Waylon hit the nail on the head. I think it's just there's a lot of receivers there. And Todd Gurley hogs a lot of. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why a lot of those receivers aren't getting as many targets because you got a very legitimate receiving back that you need to respect and give him the ball. He's their best player. So
he might have had the most targets on the team last year.
Yeah, and I think he'll probably do that again. But he's probably the reason why nobody's getting 100 targets.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The bottom line is for the Rams, I think there's just too many cooks in the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? I'll let that sink in. I'll let that simmer a little bit. Since we're talking about cooks.
Well done. So just to end it, I'm selling Cooks at 103. I'm buying him probably at 105, 106.
Okay, I'm with that. I think that's a good spot to end. Thank you guys for listening this week. I think it was a very exciting show. If you get a chance, just give us a rating and review on any platform you're listening to. Visit us on Twitter at FF Dynasty Trades. Tweet us all your trades. We'll retweet them. We'll cover them in the podcast. We'll talk to former NFL defensive backs about those trades. And as always, thank you for listening. We go.